Welcome, my name is Bjorn. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be looking at Doctor Doom. It's actually a relatively easy build. I suspect many people have come up with something similar to it. I just want to go over a few variants of it though, and give different examples of how you could play it. This main build is more focused on his abilities as opposed to his straight up intellect, even though we have a pretty good intellect score here. And as a warning, he is so powerful, you can't really recreate him as a playable character necessarily. You can probably recreate him more easily as a big bad evil guy or the villain, right? But for now, this is going to be probably as close as a playstyle as you may be able to come to him. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Alright, so as we can see here, this is what I have ended off with. A Hexblade Warlock of level 2, Storm Sorcerer, level 18, straightforward. Before we get into more description and detail, let's go into the requirements. So I'm sure you guys can tell this is going to require some multi-classing here. It's going to be pretty tricky to ascertain the numbers we need here, okay? So for the Warlock, it's a Charisma of 13, and for the Sorcerer, it's a Charisma of 13. So I know, take a step back and contemplate how much you're really willing to invest into that stat there. But, consider it moving forward. For your background, I recommend taking a look at the Acolyte. This is going to give us our insight and possibly stealth or something else that we could be looking at. You could go with history here. Maybe you don't give a shit about stealthing around because Doom doesn't stealth around. Like, who cares? So you could go history, insight. It's up to you. Languages of your choice. I just felt that this was appropriate because I'm very much a layman when it comes to following, the Marvel universe. But I'm fairly certain Doom, he's akin to Strange in a way, where like he's a warlock, he's a sorcerer warlock. I don't know. I'm not the greatest. I'm not gonna butcher it too much here, but it felt appropriate that maybe you're following some hellish creature, and then that can tie into where you become a warlock. Now, this is the race of choice here. I've decided to go with this race called the Kalashtar. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but they give some pretty interesting things. So they gain this Severed from Dreams. Essentially, you don't dream, you're not affected by the spell such as Dream. I'm purely going with this because Doom is, from what I understand, he has a very strong willpower, so that can be reflected through the Dual Mind. So we gain advantage on wisdom saving throws as a reaction. We gain mental discipline, resistance to psychic damage. We gain mind link. Doom, I'm fairly certain, isn't a telepath. But, here it is. This is the closest race I could feel that would suit Doom here. We also do gain two other choices that kind of matter here. We get to increase our wisdom and charisma scores both by 1. And we also get to increase the score of our choice. I've decided to go with strength here, just because why not? Now, very quickly, I would like to explain why I felt that the Hexblade Warlock here was a good choice. One, we do gain the Hex Warrior, so we're going to be able to use medium armor and martial weapons and shields. And this is obviously going to help us out with our AC, have a variety of weapons to use, and maybe have like a weapon of sorts to channel your shit through. I don't know, this is kind of how I envision him, or how I envision I'd want to play a Doom-like character. We could go ahead and invest a later ASI to gain the Heavy Armor Master, the Heavy Armor Feat, I believe it's called. That will allow you to wear plate, so that way you don't need to worry about having a decent dexterity score. You can just ignore that and just go straight up with plate. But the other big reason why I wanted to go with the Hexblade Warlock over, say, the Fighter is because we gain the Invocations, so we're able to see in the darkness and magical darkness up to 120 feet. We gain Beguiling Influence of Deception and Persuasion. So I really like those, the invocations that we get there. Of course, the skill choices for the proficiencies are completely up to you. I went with Arcana and Religion. It's kind of hard to, again, play up that character that is extraordinarily intelligent and powerful. And then, of course, we invest 18 levels into the Storm Sorcerer. Flat out, the reason for this is so that we can get Wind Soul. Wind Soul, you're going to have a flat flying speed of 60 feet at all times. It's pretty awesome. That's something you're gonna want. The one thing before we get too far into this that I will say is that you don't necessarily need to claim yourself as a sorcerer. I've went into this with other videos, but you can say that instead of us becoming the sorcerer, maybe the pact that we've made with this warlock is in fact granting us all these abilities that the Storm Sorcerer has. There's any number of ways you can do it, but like that's one way that you can go ahead and claim yourself a sorcerer and a warlock. And of course, throughout the Storm Sorcerer, like we gain everything that's really cool with Storm Sorcerer. I think Storm Sorcery is probably my favorite sorcerer. As for your ASIs, I believe I went with Warcaster. It makes perfect sense. I've went with Observant. I also decided to go with Keen Mind here, believe it or not. This person be extraordinarily intelligent and have a very strong memory, which I do not have, so this feat will definitely help with remembering everything. And for a final ASI, I've decided to increase my charisma intelligence up again. You know, the ASIs are completely up to you. Again, there is the option, instead of going with this whole route of like half plate, you can come down here and gain the heavily armored. This is going to increase our strength by 1, gain proficiency with heavy armor, and then instead of going with this, we could possibly go with heavily armored master. And this is going to make it so that we just take a shit ton of reduced damage. And we'll briefly mention too, with your spells, try to talk with your dungeon master and see if you can't change some of the spells around. Like say for example with like Firebolt, instead of it being fire, maybe it's permanently like lightning damage or something like that. That way you can thematically fit more into this role of Doom. But then the trade-off for that is that you couldn't do fire damage. And fire damage at lower levels, I'll tell you, very, very important. It kills a lot of things for good, like trolls for example, right? So that'd be a trade-off. It thematically fit. In the end too, you'd be doing more damage with it. You could of course go with Shocking Grasp or something like that for cantrips, but I just felt like you know, shooting out at the range of the Firebolt, a lightning bolt 120 feet, that is insane and cool. Of course, you can do that with all other sorts of spells and go crazy, just have a fun time with it. But I think I'm gonna end this one here, really. There's not much more to be said. It's an extremely overpowered character. I was considering making Doom into an NPC. I might go ahead and homebrew it, pardon me, and post that somewhere so that people can Doom as a fucking villain, because I mean, sure, dungeon masters out there really want to go ahead and just go ham with that kind of crazy, eccentric motherfucker. Have fun with it. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Hope this inspired you. Maybe you can go out and play with this, have a new view on the Storm Sorcerer or the Warlock. And again, I didn't go over too much with the Fighter. Instead of a Warlock, if you don't want to have that tie, just go Fighter 2 and then Sorcerer 18. That's one of my favorite characters I've played. Fighter 2, Sorcerer 18. You gain pretty much everything, except you also gain Action Surge, which is amazingly powerful, but I felt Warlock for Doom here was more appropriate. But anyways, rambling. Thank you very much. Have a great day as always. Bye-bye.